Welcome everybody to the first Tools for Humanity live conversation, live streamed conversation. And this is meant to really be a conversation around the crisis that's happening right now on the planet, and to have a conversation about that and to share perspectives that can really uplift us and help us reconnect on a much deeper level to ourselves and to each other, and also regain a deeper connection to the earth, and hopefully a more healthy or holistic connection to ourselves, to each other, and to the earth. And so again, I'll just mention this little housekeeping before we dive into things, but you are muted, but we really encourage you to utilize the Q&A box, and you can comment, but feel free to ask questions, and throughout the conversation, we'll dig into that Q&A box, and Michele will share some of her wisdom with all of you, and she is a wealth of wisdom to plug into, so take advantage of that today as well. Yeah, and I want to share with you just a little bit, if I didn't say already, sorry, my name is Amy Patee, for those of you that don't know me, and this is Michele Rae. If you don't know Michele Rae, you'll learn more about her in a moment. But I just kind of launched this series of conversations for the times. So it's really just something that was coming through that I wanted to share in this moment, because I know we are all navigating just unknown territory. There's a lot of uncertainty right now, and everybody's experience is unique and equally valid. And so having some tools to help us as we move through this time, and also just gathering in community, even though it's online, is really, really important as well. And so I kind of have called upon the people that I have personally benefited from working with, people who are amazing at what they do. They're into the wellness arena, they're in the spiritual world. They just bring such a wealth of information and offerings that can really support us, support humanity right now on the planet. So Michele is one of those beautiful people. And like I said, I've worked with her personally. She's coached me, and I basically moved through a tremendous shift in my life with her support. So I'm super grateful, Michele, that you wanted to have this conversation with me today. I'm so grateful that you're here and that you're just willing to share and be generous with your offerings. So thank you for that. And what would you like to share about yourself? Do you want to just introduce yourself, who you are, and share a little bit about what you offer in your work?
I will. Thanks for that lovely introduction, Amy. I have this amazing privilege to walk alongside people as a transformational coach, as Amy has talked about, and the vast majority of the people I work with are healers and leaders and teachers themselves. And so, as Amy's already given us a clue about, those of us on this call have been undergoing this process of transformation for some time. And with the current COVID-19, there are people that are entering into the conversation brand new. Self-awareness is a brand new idea. And so in my coaching, I feel very lucky to be able to bring we call it coaching presence, and hold clients and students in unconditional positive regard. I have always been an empath and an intuitive, as most all of my clients are. And that gives us a doorway and an opening to be able to have information that flows not only from our five senses, but from the clairs, the way we, clairaudience and clairsentient, and the ways that intuition and synchronicity come into our awareness and inform us. And the work I do primarily is for people that are anchoring this new energy, this new era, this new way of being human on the planet into our daily lives, into our bodies, into our hearts, into our belief systems, into our thoughts. And so that we can be available as others wake up from the crisis opportunity, same thing. But there's definitely been an acceleration and an amplification of both the exposure, right, around what isn't working,
Mhm.
as well as some phenomenally new, brilliant ways of thinking about and creating solutions out of a new paradigm. So my role is to, I feel sometimes like each of us are an instrument in the orchestra, and it's our job to play our instrument, right, full out, to live full out. And I kind of sometimes think of myself as like a little instructor, like that people come in and get a tune-up and have a private lesson.
Mhm.
And often, as you pointed out, when there's a time of big transformation, that they can really step out further, expanded and into their power, into their own note, you know, their own expression of their beauty, grace, talents, gifts, passions. So that's the heart of the work I do. Thanks for
Mhm.
asking.
That's pretty amazing work.
It's a huge privilege. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I'm just gonna, so after every little share, at least as we get going here, I'm just gonna double check to see if there's any specific questions, or if there's just comments. And looks like great comments from Julie, Veronica, and Catherine. Thank you. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And I'm gonna throw a question at you out of the blue, just based on what you just shared, but I'm just wondering if you could speak a little bit more briefly about the new earth that you referenced, that you said that we're all creating, because I feel like the coronavirus and what we're all kind of navigating with that maybe is playing a role on some level with this new earth that you mentioned. And you talked about working with people who are here to support kind of the cultivation, the creation of this new earth. So can you speak to that
I
just a
can.
little bit more? Okay.
I can. Yeah, it's an amazing time
Mhm.
of huge transformation. I actually am so passionate about this. I wrote this book
Mhm.
called Living from the Center Within as a kind of intended to have these conversations around. And so I thought one of the things I would do is just give this definition of transformation and the times that we're in and what the new era looks like. So why, during times of rapid transformation, such as an extraordinary leap in human consciousness occurring now, can we feel so disorientated? This is exactly how transformation happens. First, there are small incremental changes. We've been through the Me Too. We've been through, right? What have we been doing? Moving into more transparency and authenticity. Then chaos precedes big shifts as the decay of the old catapults us to the new.
Mm.
When nature reaches a limitation, it innovates and transforms, evolving towards higher consciousness and more freedom. Depending on your perspective, right, it can be an ending or a beginning.
Mm.
So that's out of this second chapter in the book around new era and what we're doing. And so we move along and we have incremental change, and then there's this dramatic change. And so this is the virus, and this huge introspection time is an opportunity for us as a collective to really take a deeper look. So some of the qualities of the new era, I'm calling it a birthquake these days. And there's this lovely woman named Gloria Karpinski
Mhm.
who was a teacher of mine. And we were talking some years ago, and I was talking about the birthquake that's impending. And she said, I think it's a great term. Be sure to put it in your book.
I love that term. When you wrote that in your most recent email newsletter, and I was just like, birthquake. It's perfect.
Yeah. So it's part of it. So the new era is, I think, more sustainable, more transparent. It's more shared information. As you said, more interconnected. We're looking for win-win strategies. We're looking for more abundance, more about reconstruction, common ground, solidarity, sovereignty, equality, right? That kind of stuff. And the old era is based, and this is all based in interconnected, based in love, based on the greater good. The old era was based in competition, lack, scarcity, right? Exclusivity, alienation, win-lose strategies, that entitlement, one of my least favorite things about the old era that I hope we're transcending, not to mention oppression, right, and dominance. And what we know is that experiment in our own growth and development as humanity hasn't worked very well. So I think about some of the things, as some of us do, take in dribbles of the news, as much as I can tolerate. And what I'm seeing is that we are individually and collectively being asked to really take a deep look in this crisis opportunity to reflect, right? What are our values, purpose, and meaning? There's all kinds of debris settling on the planet, right? People are seeing the mountains in LA and the Himalayas that they haven't from their local communities before. You can see the fish, right, in the rivers. We can hear birds that we haven't ever heard before. So the planet is clearing, is settling and getting more clarity. And the invitation is for us to do the same. So on our internal, how do we work with what's settling and really reflect on, when we emerge from this time, who do we want to be? Right? Who do I want? How do I want to contribute? How can I work with releasing that which no longer serves, personally, in my relationships, in my businesses, in my community, collectively? And what do we want to energize, enhance, right? Give resource to, that will support the new era, being human in the new era? There were a couple stories I was thinking about our talk today, Amy, that came into mind. And one of them is the governors of the states have been very visible. And in the beginning, with even just supplies around this COVID-19, they were hoarding and trying to get as many as we could and stockpile. And in the last week, I have just been brought to tears by the collective understanding that that model, old era model, is not working. And so let's have a couple of sites where we have all of the supplies. Let's move them around according to who needs the most, I'm thinking of today with Easter and the resurrection, and one of the stories of Jesus is of loaves and fishes, right? And there's all these people and there's not enough. And then he does a blessing and everybody shares and there's more than enough.
Yeah.
And this is really what we're called into doing. And it's not without suffering, this transition also. There's endings that are very literally people's lives endings as the planet is learning to breathe differently. We, our own lungs, are in transition. The grief for each other in humanity that are suffering is very real. And so how do we contribute to that sustainability in whatever way we can, from the inspiration of mass making to Tonglen or loving kindness or distant healing or prayers, whatever it is that arises in us? It's almost like, how can we be love in action, in service, and really be willing to co-create who we are becoming, and invite each other into that way of being powerful human beings on the planet, and hold this large container of, on one side, almost ecstasy of the possibilities, and on the other, just this deep sorrow of the suffering.
Yeah, that was really beautifully put, everything you just said. Wow.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. And that first quote that you shared, just about kind of how this transformation process takes place, that's in your book?
It is. And actually the list of qualities of the old era and new era are also, I actually made a chart, one next to the other, just to give us a feel, of creating in this new era. And every single thing, both, of course, it has to start internally, but think about if we emerge from this with that higher vision, the vision of a higher consciousness, whether it's our politics, our education, healthcare system, the way we do finance, commerce, even arts, and being social. So I feel like it's hard to find the right words, the language to get the feeling of what it could be like to live in a place where we no longer need to protect and defend. And our underlying driver is to live our genius, right? To call each other into our power and live that way. Yeah. Just be remarkable.
Yeah. And to have this happening on a global scale is really almost surreal, because individually, I think, I know for myself and you and many of the people that I'm assuming are tuned in, have been on their own path for a long time. They've been going through this process of transformation over and over again, and kind of collecting the parts of this, what you describe as the new era, for themselves. within their own body, mind, heart kind of life. And now it's happening globally on such a large scale. So that's what I think is so profound about this time. And so just really surreal sometimes. And as most people are saying, unprecedented time, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Amazing. I'm going to check the questions again just to see. Oh, Julie asks, what is the title of your book again, please? And maybe you could also just share where people can find your book. And I'll actually type this right in too.
Oh, great. It's called Living from the Center Within. You can find it on Amazon or, wherever you get your books. And the subtitle of it is Co-Creating Who You Are Becoming.
Co-creating who you're becoming. Okay.
So the idea of the book is, it's really the same conversation I've been having with students and clients. And what do we know about the new technology? I mean, the mind-body connection, even all the chemistry, what we've learned about the quantum field and how incredibly interconnected we are. Mm-hmm. And so sort of some of the scientific background, it's sort of a marriage, I think, of spirituality and science, but it's a roadmap inviting us to move from this level of I am an individual and everything else is other. That's the first level of consciousness I talk about. And from that place, the best we can do is be a good citizen. And then all of a sudden we open up, if we can get calm enough, quiet enough, still enough, as we're being forced to consider in unprecedented terms, we start to open up to this interconnected field where I, as my instrument, can literally perceive energy. Right? We're more in tune with another thought. We can pay attention to the space. And if I'm tired, if I'm hungry, if there's somebody I'm thinking about 3 times, we're just still enough to recognize the interconnection. And there's a whole nother way that we make choices when we are interconnected. It's literally like, I don't want to litter, for instance, because it's a bad thing to do as an individual, becomes, no, the planet and I are breathing as one. My friend Nia Claire's been doing a meditation offering on Facebook every day at 12:15. And, as we breathe in that which sustains us, like literally oxygen, and we breathe out carbon dioxide, all of the plants and animals and trees, right, are breathing in the carbon dioxide and breathing out oxygen. So we start to not feel like, I just don't want to not litter to be a bad citizen. It's like, for my own personal interconnected self. And then the invitation in the book is the third level of consciousness I talk about is I am infinite. When we move into that unity consciousness, when we really, even subject and object disappear, and we can feel the flow, and live in that and be informed of what we choose from that place.
Yes. And I like that you mentioned the flow right now too. And just on a personal level, in working with you, that I felt like that was something that I was able to really start to tap into on a much greater level, of just the sense of the flow, and how the flow isn't always what you want necessarily, or what maybe your ego self or wants, but you can feel that there's an ease with it, and it aligns with some aspect of yourself that is like right. You can feel that rightness in being in the flow. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. All right. So you may have already kind of spoken to this, but this is one of the questions that I wanted to ask. In regards to your expertise, where is your attention most kind of like zoned in right now, especially with the COVID-19 happening across the planet? And you've kind of maybe spoken a little bit to this, but just elaborating, like, as because there's many, I think a lot of the people tuned into are health and wellness experts, or they're working in that field. And for each, I'm sure it's different, but for you, where is your energy where's your energy serving? Like, how are you being asked to support?
I feel like I'm supporting the people who are out on the front lines right now. For me, my clients, my students are, as I mentioned already, healers and leaders and students. So part of my heart song right now is to create containers where we, who are a little ahead of the curve on human development, can find each other and solidify the information we're getting. I'm calling it conversations in the upper room. I have a friend, Nina, Robert Salverson, and I, who are co-facilitating this conversations in the upper room, because everyone on this call has access, right, to that, to feeling the flow, exactly what you were talking about, and the ability to give our allegiance to that flow, even though our ego or our individual, rebellious self might say, well, and you're like, you can come along. Resistance gets to come. It just doesn't get to drive the bus, right? It doesn't get to make the decisions this more interconnected way. And so for me, I feel like my service is supporting those of us who can see the new earth, right? The Eckhart Tolle's words of the new earth, his book. And we really have already embodied it in many of the choices we've made. Like you were saying, is this relationship in right alignment with what makes my heart sing? Is this job is where I'm living, and we've made, and kind of in my life, I'd say I've cleaned up a few of those more chaotic drama, areas of life, and moved more into some ease and flow and grace. And so for me to be of service to those of us who live in that more than the average person, it's really been delightful. And it's been hard because often we get feeling very isolated. We're like the only person at our workplace, right, that feels into the flow. And so for us to find each other, be in community, whether it's my one-on-one coaching or the group coaching work that I'm doing, one of the things that a few clients, maybe I've probably had 20 requests in the last 4 weeks, to put together small groups to meet maybe every other week for even 4 times during this, so that we can literally plug into and connect with each other and not feel so isolated. Those of us who have stabilized, I would say, and live at the stage of consciousness of this more interconnected. So those are the people I'm serving. And it's, oh my gosh, it just brings tears to my eyes. I'm so inspired by the work that people are doing. And as far as I can tell, the veil is thinner, right? The veils are kind of falling off. And so there's even more of a sense of energetic attunement. And I am actually seeing some higher frequencies that have not been available on the planet before are now available to those of us who can tune into it. And we're literally translating that higher frequency energy to our clients, to our patients, to the work that we're doing, and making it accessible for humanity. So I feel like we in this group are kind of the transmitters, the translators, and can tune in at the energy frequency. That's it's almost like a dog whistle for most people. It's like they can feel it, but they can't access it directly. And those of us that have been doing this, living mindfully and practicing this vessel to be attuned to higher frequencies, are really bringing in new information and technologies and being able to support not only humanity, but the earth herself. A friend of mine once said, it's kind of like we're acupuncture needles, right? We can literally bring the energy in and ground into Mother Earth and feel her shifting energy.
Yes.
Right. And have it transmitted through us as a vessel. And then, like I said, out into the world.
Yeah. I love the words that you put to all of this. So that's one of your abilities for sure, is to speak to the energy, to really give words to this energetic level. I love that. All right. So what tool can you offer all of us to help us keep navigating in a sane, conscious, aware, present way? Because we're still going to be at home for a while. And and when we are slowly allowed to leave our home, things are gonna be different. And but what would be something, I'm sure all of us are doing our best, and we all have practices. But what about what can you share with us?
Yeah, I think that the tool, as I briefly mentioned, to embody this is through mindful living. And I think of mindfulness as being able to have my attention in the present moment on purpose, without judgment. And that in and of itself, the capacity to live mindfully, means that I have the capacity to choose not to leak my energy, my attention into worry or anxiety, which is about what's not happening in the present moment. It's imagining what could happen. We're calling it the what ifs and the shoulds, right? And if we spend our lifeline, our life energy, our attention, our nervous system out into what's not actually happening mindfully in the present moment, we're not living in our center within, the name of my book. And so anything we can do to bring our attention into the present moment and be calm and centered when we're not. Another way to think about it in the neuroscience world is information comes in, watch the news, let's say, and it goes through our limbic system, which puts it to all of our memories, and we get triggered that this is not safe, and we can get into fight, flight, and freeze. And when that happens, our brain has this lovely blessing where it shuts down our neocortex, our executive functioning. And to wander around the planet with our fight and flight, amygdala hijack turned on, we're now part of the problem, and there's no way we can be part of the solution. Mm-hmm. So this way of finding our self back into mindful living, and I have an entire chapter in my book here dedicated, I call it transforming practices. Mm-hmm. And here's something that I grabbed from that from the book that I just thought was really well said. It's from Marilyn Schlitz. She has a book called Living Deeply that I really enjoy. And she says this is about transforming practices. They quiet the mind body, they heal old wounds, they shed false beliefs, cultivate intention and attention, promote insight, and expand capacity. The heart of these practices in mindfulness is their ability to bring you into direct contact with the numinous, which is the sacred. Open your eyes and heart to the sanctity of life. They assist you in realizing the abundant, ever-present, and surprisingly accessible deep meaning that is present every moment of every day. And so I'd be curious if anyone else wants to chime in about their mindfulness practice, and I'll read a few from my book. And if you want to talk, Amy, about some that you've used, the breath work is amazing as a mindfulness practice. And I know we're going to take a few minutes and do a little practice closer to the end of our time together. Meditation, whether it's open or concentrated, music, right, can literally activate your parasympathetic nervous system and rebalance the hemispheres in your brain. Smell of aromatherapy can also help keep you centered. Mindful eating, feng shui, body movement, journaling, art, biofeedback. There's all kinds of, people aren't familiar with heart math. They have this amazing tool, many of them free online, about how to live mindfully. One of my favorites is progressive relaxation. You start at one end of your body and clench for your feet, for instance, for a few seconds, and then relax. Can really bring you right into the present moment. Being in nature literally changes your ions and brings you back in. Any kind of contemplation, study of sacred texts, ritual, dialogue that's authentic, calling that person that you have this relationship, paying attention to dreams. Storytelling is another one. Like, I think that this is a mythic story. I think our cosmology as a species is going to change on the other end of this. And I'm really encouraging all of us who are awake and have the capacity to self-regulate and be present to be the ones rewriting the story, or, writing the next chapter in human history here. I don't know, Amy, do you want to chime in with practices that work for you?
I mean, all of those. And I think like what I'm hearing, what I gathered from what you shared is like kind of the starting point is that piece of mindfulness, like understanding, hopefully within yourself, knowing when you are triggered and when you're centered. And that's kind of like this like base, like having a base where you can feel that sense of like, I'm triggered right now and I need to go breathe, or I need to go meditate, or I need to walk in nature, or use my essential oils, or do some yoga. And so kind of having that as your base of knowing like, what does being centered feel like? And what does being triggered feel like? And when I'm triggered, how do I find my way back to center? And then there's all these practices available to us, and we they're available online. They're readily available in books. I mean, there's so much available. And I think for myself personally, you know, nature for me is a huge piece. Sometimes just like before our session, I was burning some Palo Santo or sage, and just something for me that kind of can be a symbol of sacredness, like a little ritual that I can do that just is like a reminder and helps me plug back into that place and remind me of the truth of like, this is the truth, not this spin out that I might be having in my mind. But then also for myself personally, somatic practices, anything body-based for me is really key, so that when I am triggered, I don't kind of bypass what I'm feeling, but I'm able to actually, you know, have the capacity to go in and feel those feelings, because sometimes I have to feel those feelings to get back to my center. And so any somatic practice that my body can be involved with, I think is key, and learning how to build up my own capacity to feel some of those more intense feelings, so that I'm not scared of my body, because it's really through my body where I find that deep center. So physical body-based things, and there will be some people in this series that have that as their specialty too, so they'll have more to probably speak to about that. I'm going to check our questions really quick and see if anybody else had anything to share. Or fascinating, Camille, just fascinating. Thanks for your remark. Let's see, Kathy says, deep gratitude for the lovely conversation this afternoon. As the avenues of humanity and access broaden through unity experiences, our abundance and sustainability will be maximized. Blessings, light, and love, Kathy. Thank you, Kathy. So no more questions at this moment, but beautiful comments. Thanks, you guys, for sharing.
I might, I'm going to go off of what you said and just add a couple more things that you said, but I'm going to reflect them back for all of us to consider the teachings that you brought forth. Thank you. Yep. One is, if we can pay attention to our body, it lies the least to us. We can talk ourselves in our intellect into things, and our emotions can be part of our thoughts that can be not in the present moment, right? Can include past or present or future kind of thing. And so paying attention to our body. And so if we can notice our symptoms, as far as tools go, what do I start doing in my behavior? What do I start doing in my thoughts? You know, what do I start doing? How do I start feeling physically? Do I get a stomach ache? Do I clench my teeth? I mean, literally. And then we can catch that sooner than later. And then through that mindfulness, self-awareness, then, like you were saying, apply a practice. And the other teaching that you offered, Amy, which I think is really great, is that mindfulness can be thought of in two ways. One is in the moment when you're triggered, notice, apply a practice, right? And through reflection, whatever it is, to bring yourself back to center. But the other is when we're not triggered. You know, you're a phenomenal yoga teacher, right? So when we're not triggered, practice mindfulness, and it literally builds the muscle so that we have more capacity to stay centered with greater triggers. You know? So both and are really true. And the other teaching that you mentioned, which I really appreciate, is that practices can come in three categories, and we can categorize them a million ways, but one is through the mind, like, you know, prayer or mantras or affirmations or reading sacred stuff. There's the coolest amount of YouTubes out right now from people all over this, right? So the mind, the heart, like, what are your practices of the heart? Are you making masks? Are you sending cards to people? Are you aware of who's living alone and making an extra effort? You know, what are your practices of the heart? And then physically, breathing, yoga, moving, Tai Chi, whatever, being in nature. And of course, they really all happen simultaneously. But if we think about those as various mindfulness practices, we often as an individual have one that's a little easier access for us, but cultivating all of them so we have a big toolbox.
Yeah.
As in different times, different things are needed. And then we can, I know for me, I've been, as you were talking about, emotionally all over the board, and I've had a couple days where I have just been so emotionally fatigued, physically fatigued. Like I just, one day I took a 4-hour nap and couldn't wait for bed, and other days there's so much creativity coming in as the veils are being more porous. I'm up at 4 o'clock for my usual hit the bathroom, and I'm like so on fire I can't go back to sleep. So I start writing or creating or doing art. And so I just am aware that I need to be in that flow, paying attention, and that the practice and how to be mindful and centered is what is as wildly all over the board as to what is the most useful. Again, it brings us back to needing to be self-aware, as my emotions are all over the board, from utter disbelief and despair to unbelievable optimism and abundance and sustainability, as Kathy was just saying.
Yeah. I think many people would be shaking their head yes, having very similar experiences right now. Would you like to, let me just check again. It looks like maybe we got another question. Yes, somatic practices as a type 5. I'm thinking, is that the
that Enneagram?
Enneagram, yes. Getting out of my head and into my body gets me into my heart. Thank you. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, and we are whole beings, right? So the physical is going to be important, but also, how are we training our minds, and how are we building capacity to feel a full range of emotions? So all of those practices are here for a reason. They've come forth for a reason. All right. Would you like to guide us in a practice?
I would be
for a short little experience.
I would be so honored amidst all of these meditation teachers I'm seeing on our list of peeps here.
Any kind of practice will be beautiful.
Yeah. So I invite you just to find a place to be still for a few minutes if you aren't. And just allow your body to be supported, laying down, sitting down, standing. And let's start by finding our breath. Breathing in deeply. Expand your lungs entirely and let your belly go soft. And breathing out completely, squeezing all of the air out. And taking another breath in when it's time, maybe to the count of 4. And hold your breath for a count of 2. And all the way out for a count of 4. And then pausing for a count of 2. We'll do one more breath together. Breathing in, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2. Out, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2. So continuing at your own pace, recognizing when you are breathing in, this inspiration is life-giving. And invite that vitality to expand and grow and clarify and honor you living an empowered life in whatever way that looks for you. And on the exhalation, what no longer is needed that can be released and be nourishment for something else. As we breathe in, imagine what it is that you are giving birth to. breathe in all that will support the optimal good for all beings. Breathe in the resurrection, the reconstruction, the renewing, recalibrating. And breathe out what is dying off. What belief systems, limiting thoughts, old era qualities that we are personally and collectively ready to release. Breathing in new life. Breathing out what's no longer needed. And as we are open to receiving this attunement, this recalibration, reset that we are all going through, we open our hearts in gratitude for what is possible, for imagining the optimal outcomes for who we are becoming. Feel into that sense of gratitude and allow that sensation to be shared among our group here now. Listening live, listening later. Feel into that sensation of enoughness, of empowerment. And we invite that resonance, this coherence in our hearts to be shared, to radiate throughout our homes, our families, our community. Humanity is currently in a chrysalis. We are warming up and heating in the light of this frequency of love. And we will be emerging from this chrysalis, alchemically changed, transformed into a new era of humanity. We offer our blessing today, our light, our love, our gratitude, as an infusion and transmission for planet Earth and all who share in this space and time. And as we open and pour this love and light out, I can feel the channel of source light, of Mother Earth light and love, increasing in frequency and expanding, amplifying, accelerating through our willingness to be the vessel of light and love pouring out through us, in us, and as us, in unity with Source, God, divine intelligence, Chi, Prana, the universe, Mother, Father, God. This energy is flowing through us as we form in this chrysalis the fusion of the masculine and feminine to be in an alchemically empowered new energetic frequency on planet Earth. We open to new clarity as the veils are lifting, and new ways of being and seeing and perceiving are emerging in us individually and collectively. We say yes to being the flow of the optimal choices of love in action we commit to making every day in each small choice. So breathing in and breathing out, we settle into integrating and embodying this energy of light and love today on Easter Sunday in the middle of Passover for the greatest good of all beings here on planet Earth and Gaia, Mother Earth herself. I can feel the one breath, the one heartbeat as we connect. So once again, inviting your attention to rest on your breath. Feel yourself breathing in and out. And when you're ready, wiggle your fingers and toes and stretch a bit. Wowza, we got some good juju going here, Amy.
Thank you for that, Michelle. That was amazing.
Whew, the whole top of my head is buzzing. It's like a crown, the corona, right? The whole top of my head is like, ah! The bottom of my feet, the base of my spine. It feels very grounded. Thank you all for that group meditation.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, where do we go from here? If you have any questions, we can take the last few minutes of this conversation for Q&A with Michele. If anything came out of that meditation, or if there's anything just that has come up for you through this conversation that you want to ask Michele, I highly encourage you to do so. Take a little bit of time to do that. Pat just says that she felt so relaxed. What a treat. Thank you. I agree. But yeah, if anybody has any questions, just go ahead and type those in, and can wait a couple minutes for that to happen. But if there's, is there anything, Michele, that you want to just leave? I mean, you just took us through that amazing experience. And so if there's nothing else, I would not be disappointed. But is there anything else that you want to leave all of us with this afternoon? Any words of wisdom or something? Sometimes when we walk away, it might be like last little nugget that we remember.
Thank you. Yeah, I checked in here with all these Council of Lights and other beings who have been gathering as we were joining today. And what came to me is to really allow the stillness and the clarity to arise. We're really invited to embrace the quiet and get to know ourselves at a whole nother level. And as you alluded to earlier, Amy, allow all of it, the shadow work, the discomfort, the confusion, the pain, the anger, along with the light and the inspiration to just get to know ourselves better in this place, and to think, to contemplate the question of, when we emerge, how do we want to be in the world? I mean, are there choices that we're going to make on our own behalf to live differently?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what would that look like? We're really being invited to live up to our absolute highest potential, especially us light workers and way showers and mindfulness living people. This is not the time to be artificially humble, or, you know what I mean, like that, to hide, to be invisible.
Mm-hmm.
Be visible. Be available to the people in your life who are looking for us, who have some practice here.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's really by us living up to our highest potential. It's the Marianne Williamson poem, right? As we let our light shine, we invite others to do the same. And then the last piece is to really recognize this interconnection, the mirror neurons, right? We work off and feed off each other. So we want to set the tone, the calm, right? And rather than get off-centered by the chaos or lower energy, because we live in a morphic field and we really want to co-create, you know, who we are becoming with as much thoughtfulness as possible.
Mm.
And I'm going to also read one poem. I had the most fun getting permission for poems in this book.
Mm-hmm.
But this one is so timeless. It's an invitation from the 12th century Sufi poet Hafi.
Mm.
We've been talking about this for a long time, for heaven's sakes. Poets have been writing about it. Now is the time to know that all that you do is sacred. Now, why not consider a lasting truce with yourself and God? Now is the time to understand that all your ideas of right and wrong were just a child's training wheels to be laid aside when you can finally live with veracity and love. Now is the time for the world to know that every thought and action is sacred. This is the time for you to compute the impossibility that there is anything but grace. Now is the season to know that everything you do and are is sacred.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I'm just seeing if there's any last little question. If you're open to answering one other question here from Pat. How do we protect ourselves from all the negative energy out there? Be with the earth, but not of it.
Mm-hmm. So my personal favorite way right now, I think that's part of the new earth. The old earth said we needed to put up a barrier, right, to protect ourselves. And I think that's still very wise. I can think of it like a cocoon that allows good stuff in, but is a self-regulating filter,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and to literally, whether it's color, tone, vibration, and we can wrap a cocoon around us is one way. But what I'm actually finding now in the new era to be more potent and easier is to stay connected to Mother Earth, like energetically, like in our root system,
Mm-hmm.
and stay connected to the source energy, like leaves, right, that are connected to the light, like a tree. And that 24/7, we're in that flow of source natural nourishing energy. And then what happens literally is it comes in and as and through us, and it almost creates a force field around us. Mm-hmm. Of love and light, and that ripples out and keeps negative energy away, but it also is in service to kind of transmute anything that's interested in being impacted by that resonance. And so I'm finding that just flow, both connection, up and down kind of idea of self as tree, and just letting it flow in and as and through us is keeping a self filter of the negativity. It's like it vibrationally can't stick to that energetic frequency. So I'm finding that's the most protective for me these days.
Hmm. Hmm. I like that. I like that. Centering, getting centered within. Beautiful. Pat says she loves it. Thank you. All right. So if there isn't any other questions, I think that this is a wrap. Anything else, Michele, that you want to share or contribute?
Yeah, I would just say be in touch, hey, look at what other teachers and healers and leaders you have lined up to lead the discussion, Amy. And for those of you who know me or those of you who don't, like, be in touch, whether it's coaching sessions or a group, doing a group session, picking up the book, send me an email. But now is the time for us to very intentionally be in community of like-minded, like-hearted people, and to encourage each other bravely, right, to be in the world with our vision of the new era. So be in touch would be my final request.
Yes. And everybody that signed up for the call, I will, once this will be posted on other platforms, so I'll send out a link with that information. And then also your website is centerwithin.com, so pretty easy. And you can all visit me on my website too, amypatee.com. And if you want to see the list of other speakers, just click on my virtual offerings link in the menu bar, and you'll be able to see who else is speaking. And they're kind of being added still. I have a few people that we have to nail down the date, but lots of great conversations and talks with many beautiful people who are, as Michele is, just sharing just a wealth of wisdom and insight and light and love on the planet right now. So thank you, Michele, so much for just taking this time and sharing so much of yourself with us today on Easter Sunday. And thanks to everyone for tuning in and being with us as well. And I think we could feel your energy here with us. So really appreciate.
We appreciate all the Q&A thank yous as well. So we see them and back at ya.
Okay, you're seeing those. Okay. Yes. Thank you, everyone. And yes, Camille from Spain. Thank you. All right, everyone. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and hopefully Michele and I will see you in person sometime not too far off in the future.
Great. Thank you, Amy.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.